And what are you using now on your mix bus?
I use an UAD API 2500, which is the same thing I grew to love on the SSL world. Forever we were using the bus compressor on the console, but I think it was the Deftones record I mixed. That was the first time I tried the 2500 and just always loved what it did to the mix. And so the UAD version is very good on that. I followed that by the Fatso, but I turned the compressor off, and it's just a little bit of the transformer saturation thing. So the yellow light is lighting up, but not the red light up top. And what that does, it seems to bring like a good smoothness to it and a little bit of this lower mid fullness there that's just rich. I just kind of like the way it smooths some things out. And I guess it's meant to mimic some analog circuitry that's, electronic circuitry and maybe somewhat like a tape thing. I've never really used any of the tape emulation plugins on my mix bus. I put them on and it's okay, but it's not great. This does that for me though. And then there's a Universal Audio Pultec EQP1A, famously Chris Lord-Alge used forever on mixes, but there's just 1 dB at 60 hertz and 1 dB at I think it's at 16 at the top. So it just lifts the edges just a little bit. Plus, it has a certain sound to it as well, the Pultec, but that's it. So those three things, and that's pretty much every mix. I'll do that. It rarely changes too much. But I do have the SSL bus compressor. If you're doing something that's maybe a little more metal, like really heavy and punchy and quick, that thing works really good for that. So.
And when do you turn on that process? Like from the beginning? I don't know.
Not quite. I'll usually start with all of it off, bypassed. And as I'm getting my drum sound, let's just say we're starting with a brand new mix that someone sent me. So I will start with my, of course, organize my session the way I like it and make sure everything's named properly. It's always nice when you get a session where everything's like named well and you know exactly what it is and it's not audio2.dupe6, because that's a whole different mind space to be in when you have to spend all your time setting that up. But anyway, I will start with the drum sound, kind of get that together. I still have some NS10s in here with a subwoofer, and I'll turn that up loud just to check that low end and kind of make that really, sound big and full, but also knowing where too much is too much, And then I will work on my bass sound and then get the bass sitting with the drums properly. And I'll do that a little bit loud, but then from there and the rest of the day, it's very quiet on Atom speakers. Very quiet. And if it sounds loud when it's quiet, then you're good, right? So at that point, after I have drums and bass kind of working well together, I'll turn on the API compressor then, get sort of a starting point with that, and it just barely touches it at that point. And then I start working in the other instruments. And it is important to have that compressor on because it really does sort of affect everything together in a certain way. If you built a mix and then suddenly turned that on at the very end, it may change some things for you. So that one is important to have on from the early on in the process, for me anyway. And as I start putting things in and EQing a little bit, then I add the Fatso and the Pultec just to see what they're doing and making sure nothing's too bright or it doesn't change anything. But usually those are just slight color pieces to the whole puzzle. But the API is a very big part of it in terms of really gluing everything together. So
to watch the full video, click the link below and don't forget to subscribe.